guys, welcome back to Hear Me Out. I'm E.
I'm D.
And today we're going to do something we haven't done in a while because all this drama keeps happening and we can't catch up. But, new year, people are settling in and I guess, nothing's really going on with their lives. So we're going to review a TV show. We have been watching Bodies and we have some thoughts. It's a Netflix show and it's crazy. It's a limited series. I think it was 6 episodes.
Six or eight.
Six or eight episodes, but it was good, guys. All right. So we're going to give you a little synopsis and then we're going to give you our thoughts. If you've already watched the episode, comment below. Let us know what you think. All right. So we have, I guess, 1 or 2 synopsis. Whatever. All right. So Bodies is a British crime and science fiction limited series primarily written and created for Netflix by Paul Tomelin. It is based on the 2015 DC Vertigo graphic novel of the same name, written by Cy Spencer. The story starts with the appearance of a dead body in Long Harvest Lane in London. This happens in the same location in 4 different years, 1890, 1941, 2023, and 2053. And leads to 4 different detective investigations that eventually become interlinked with far-reaching consequences. The main characters, it's very convoluted from the jump with the dead body. And it's the same dead body, which is kind of creepy. I gotta admit, I was lost till the last episode. I'm like, you gotta watch this because I don't even understand what's going on at this point. So, like I mentioned, Long Harvest Lane, the years 1890, 1941, 2023, and 2053. 4 detectives. We have Detective Hillinghead, who keeps his queerness hidden from his wife and daughter. So everybody has something going on.
Yeah.
There's Detective Whiteman, who's morally duplicitous against the backdrop of London's blackouts. Detective Hassan, who is a single parent dealing with societal microaggressions, and Detective Maplewood, an officer who healed her spinal disability in exchange for loyalty to the government. So it's all a time warp and craziness.
Okay, so how about we break it down by the years and then we kind of can connect it. Like, let's see if this can work for us.
All right, let's start with 1890. I don't know why it's so hard for me to say that. 1890.
Okay, so real quick, amazing recommendation by E over here. I gotta give her props. That was such a great show. I loved it. Okay, so definitely super creepy. Starts off dead body, right? Same dead body across, those 4 different years. 1890, we have Inspector Hillinghead, who, this is the 1890s, y'all. So it's a very, very different era, very, very different time. He comes across this body, dead body, and, basically his life kind of becomes upside down. This literally catapulted his life into or it was the catalyst for his life literally going in just this crazy journey. And yes, we do know that he was attracted to men. He encounters.
You didn't know this clearly till a couple episodes in. You say you saw that immediately. I could not have seen it.
Yeah, there was a slight bit of a spark between him and the photographer. Because there was a photographer at the scene. And so they briefly talked because I believe the police had caught the photographer. They took his camera when Inspector Hillinghead shows up. He tells them to give it back to him. And there's just a brief exchange and I was like, sparks. I don't know. Maybe.
I didn't see the spark at that moment.
So this really just becomes a crazy thing. Obviously, there's no ID on the body. By the way, he's completely naked. So there's no ID on the body. There's, no way to know who this person is. But he does have a tattoo and he does have a bullet hole in his left eye. It's a whole thing. Super crazy. So Hillinghead, he's trying to go about his life, trying to solve this mystery. He has a doting wife at home and a daughter who seems to be obsessed with playing the piano. His daughter, I thought was his wife at first because if they were trying to pass her off as a teen, I don't know who was going to be fooling with that. She really looked like she could be his wife's age. Anyway, so
that they look kind of old back in the day. So
dang, what happened? Anyway, whatever. So, so I was very confused until I realized that was his daughter. But whatever. His daughter seems to know her father very well, and so through different interactions, you see that she's like highly acutely aware when he's like fibbing or when he's lying about something. Anyway, the photographer gives Hillinghead photographs, right? The photographs that he took. He has a red room in his own apartment, which Hillinghead goes to, and that's where he gets like the photos. In one of those photos, you notice a shadow, or not a shadow, a reflection in one of the windows. And that is a whole like mystery in and of itself as to who this is. So they go on a little hunt to try and figure out who that person is. They find out some information. Turns out it's this bigwig from the town, seemingly untouchable. And we find out that the police station he works for is corrupt, and they're pretty much all on the payroll of that person who was in the reflection. Whole time, we still don't know who this dead body is. But then we move on to 1941, where we have Inspector Whitehead. Is it Whitehead or Whitehall? It's
White,
Whitehall. I think I'm
white,
good.
white man.
White men. Because, okay, so an overarching theme here is that each of the inspectors, during their respective timelines, are going through some sort of prejudice, bias, or racism. And so for Hillinghead, it was clearly the fact that he was part of the LGBTQ community, which back then, of course, was a big no-no. For Inspector White,
Man.
what?
Whiteman.
I can't get Whiteman in my head. Okay. Inspector Whiteman, he is actually a Jewish man in 1941 during World War II and a lot of bombings going on in London because of the war and everything that was happening at that time. So he's very much whitewashed, literally, his name, because he's not called any of the names that he tells us. We later find out what his real name is. And so he is the only inspector out of all the timelines who doesn't stumble upon the body because of his job. He stumbles upon it from his side job. And his side job is he's a crooked cop. And they're telling him to dispose of the body. So he shows up to the body or to Long Harvest Lane when it's nighttime and it's raining. And so he takes the body, puts it in his car, and he's attempting to take it to where he needs to drop it off. But he's being followed because some of the cops at his precinct were kind of suspicious of him because some stuff is just not really being solved or resolved properly. So anyway, he's caught. The officer that had been, kind of most suspicious of him, ends up getting blown to bits because of, the bombings that were going on. So he gets saved, but he has to leave both the dead officer and the dead body in his trunk to then later come back the next day, and he tries to play it off like as though he's going to like really figure out this mystery, but that just leads to more convoluted stuff, right? So then we move on to current times 2023, Inspector Hassan, and she's going through her own microaggressions and biases because of her being, I believe she's Asian, South Asian, or one of those. She's Middle Eastern, maybe? Is that what it is? Because I feel like they didn't specify, but they did mention like South Asian. In regards to
I didn't know. I know she was, prejudices against people wearing hijabs. I thought she was black. I'm not sure.
right, I
I'm
thought she was too,
like
but no, I'm not sure where she was from, but like based on like the dad too, I kind of figured
yeah.
maybe it was like I don't know, maybe like India, not India, but like Pakistan or a
Oh,
country like an
yeah.
Asian country,
Oh,
like
okay. Gotcha. Yeah.
yeah, but Muslim.
Mm-hmm.
She's and so she finds the dead body in a very crazy way because she's chasing this guy who she believes ended up killing the body, but we later find out that he couldn't have done that because something was wrong. There was no actual bullet that was found on the body, which that's something that everybody comes across in the different, timelines. And this whole mystery, begins for her because she's trying to sort out who this is, what happened, and she's trying to save the kid who, she at first thought killed the person, the unknown person, but she later finds out that he didn't have anything to do with it, and instead uncovers a much bigger plot that is actually connected through all of the years. And then we move on to the final timeline, which is 2053. No, is it 53?
2053, yeah.
Okay, so 2053, when we meet Inspector Maplewood, we know that her situation is that she is previously disabled, and she is utilizing this device that helps her to be able to walk. She's very much like a company man, like very loyal. She's trying to do her job as an inspector. We see that, of course, this is the future, so they're showing these like weird sort of advertisements, and also something that just kept happening, people saying, "Know you are loved." Yeah, super creepy. So she comes across the body, and now at this point in 2053, Long Harvest Lane does not look any way the way that it did before because it's closed off. So she has to kind of like make her way in there. She discovers the body, and she takes it, to where it needs to be. They come to find out that it is the body of a professor. They actually figure out who this person is. This is the first timeline where they figure out who the person is, right? And then when she goes to the job of this person to inform, that he passed and then get information about him, the person walks in. The dead body, not so dead, walks in fully clothed. And we end up meeting who this person is. And right now I can't recall his name. So terrible. But yeah, but he comes up and clearly he's not dead. And so, she takes him to go and look at the person she thought was him. And they think that maybe that's his twin or like a doppelganger. We later find out that it is in fact him, but from the future. And so a whole mess of stuff happened. What is it?
Defoe.
Defoe? Okay, so Defoe literally confused the crap out of all of us because that was him from the future who was dead, but showed up in the past, several pasts. Anyway, so before we go into too many more details, what did we think so far about just like each inspector finding them and how they found them, and how all that led to different things?
Man, this whole show confused me because I just couldn't figure out. I was so lost. Every time I would get like into one specific year and trying to really figure out what's going on, we would jump. But
Yeah.
we later on find out that it's all interconnected. It's all like a time warp, going back in time, going forward in time.
Yeah.
So I was just I don't even know. I sometimes don't even know if I really watched this show or if I was going through the motions. I don't think I fully grasped what this show was. I know it's amazing.
Yeah, I loved
but
it.
I guess I don't know. Tell me what you think.
Well, I think that like I found it interesting very, very, early on from the beginning. Obviously, we know that this happens in the same street. We know that they're all inspectors. We know that like they're all going through different sorts of biases, prejudices, and racism or whatever in their time. And that they're all in one way or another, just trying to do their job or trying to do something that is being told of them to do. But for whatever reason, for all of them, it kind of goes against something within them, right? Where
Sure.
Hillinghead, he was kind of like basically told to get off the case or to leave it alone. When he made the connection to that person in the picture, he couldn't do that, right? Like he tried, but he couldn't. And then when you have Inspector Whiteman, who literally like tried to pin the whole situation on some, pedophile or something. He tries to leave that all alone, but we end up finding out that he had a witness that saw him at the scene when everything went down. And it was a little girl, ends up being a Jewish girl. And then his handlers, the people who he's doing these eye jobs for, tell him that he needs to get rid of her. And we think he's going to do this, right? It seems like he is, but he ends up not doing it. And he ends up taking an interest in the girl and trying to protect her. Then we go to Hassan, and like she took an interest in that kid, that they found with the, or that she found with the gun near the dead body. And then the kid ends up, I believe he killed himself
Mhm.
in front of her because of this whole situation he'd gotten himself into. And then we
And
later
the
find out,
picture, the that current year Maddox that
yes,
she's
so
saying.
he was friends with someone that is also, we later find out, connected to every single timeline, and that his name is Mannix. And he is Elias Mannix, I think is his name, or
Mhm.
something like that. So Mannix, is seemingly like a young kid, like maybe late teens or something like that. And he seems to be very disturbed, and so they think that he's the one who had really something to do with all these things. They think there's a bigger plot point that's about to happen, but they're still connecting dots at this point, right? And then with Inspector Maplewood in 2053, she's taking care of, or she's protecting Defoe, and trying to take him to meet with, I believe, who we later find out is future Mannix, right? Like, he becomes some kind of, I don't know, general, or I don't know what he's some kind of bigwig person,
Kind of president of the world, emperor, like a
powerful.
utopian kind of atmosphere.
Yeah.
But that all stems from him wanting everybody to be loved.
Yeah.
Kind of creepy.
So we later find out how everything is connected, because it is Mannix who is both the person in the picture, right, of 1890. It is Mannix who is the one behind the side jobs that Inspector Whiteman is doing. It is Mannix in 2023 who's the kid trying to run away from everything. And then it is Mannix in a very powerful role in 2053, kind of running like the police department or whatever, and it's a whole big thing, right? So, how is it possible? How do we have this
He
Mannix?
was
And
like Emperor Palpatine.
he was
Yeah.
creepy. He's so creepy. But so the way in which it's all interconnected is because Mannix wants to be loved. So apparently, he grew up in a very rough way, had a rough childhood, was abandoned by his mother. His father was never in the picture. He had to be in foster homes. And this foster family that, became his parents were fanatical. They kind of subscribed to a cult like thing, that was started by 1890 Mannix, who is the same person. It's very convoluted. There's so much going on, and we later find out that it's all one giant loop, like, entirely. So
Hmm.
Mannix, as a teen, becomes Mannix, the Emperor Palpatine version, in 2053, who then goes back in time because we find out there's a time travel machine, and
Called the
then
which I
called the
still
Throat.
don't understand the name, but
Right. So 2053 Mannix goes through the throat and ends up in 1890, where he then just assumes the identity of a dead soldier with a well-off mother, and they end up tricking people. The mother knew that wasn't her son, by the way, but he was going to help her make money. So because of the fact that he knew the future, he was able to do all these things to get people to believe that he had some kind of power, he was divine or whatever. And so he eventually ends up marrying Inspector Hillyhead's daughter, the one who loves to play the piano. They have children, and that child has a child, and then that child has Mannix. So, who really is the parent to Mannix? We don't know, because it's all literally going in circles. We find out that in 2023, Inspector Hassan, her boss, is actually Mannix's father. And the woman that he had the child with is a former drug addict. And so then another police officer from 1941 that used to work with Inspector Whiteman is actually the father of Mannix. And there's an old man that's in this timeline, right? Who is behind all of the killings or all of the deals that Whiteman is doing, who's married to a woman, and the older woman is the one giving Inspector Whiteman all the instructions. Turns out that woman
girl
is the piano girl that's married to Mannix, and they're in their old age in 1943. A cluster. A whole cluster.
Yeah.
So, how do we get to the end to tie it all up together? Okay. So, I think the way to kind of look at it is to see how all of the different inspectors are connected to the timeline. So, I guess you can begin with Mannix of 2053. Mannix of 2053 ends up having this beef with who we later find out is future version Hassan. And we also find out that in 2053, they are memorializing the 30-year anniversary of a catastrophic event that happened in 2023, a bombing that took out hundreds of thousands of people in London. And so Hassan, 30 years later, is a hardened woman who finds out that Mannix is behind all these different things and that Defoe joins her, does the time travel thing, and they're trying to find a way to go back in time to stop Mannix. Through all of this, Mannix, of course, because he knows what happens, he's the only one who knows what happens during every loop. He, every single time, makes recordings of what he has to say to all these different people so they can keep following him. His last, I guess, record of his recordings is to his young version Mannix, telling him, you have to do this. What is the this that he has to do? Blow up London. That catastrophic event in 2023 is thanks to a bomb that Mannix planted way back in, was it 1941?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that bomb from 1941 was meant to be found in 2023 to blow everything up. So that
Nobody knew the show. They were like, "What the heck?" I know it's a loop, guys.
it's a loop. All of
Yeah.
this is made so that in 2023 Mannix can blow up everything, and then in 2053 Mannix can have his utopian version of life. But obviously he has people that are trying to stop him in 2053. That would be Hassan, an older version of her, and Defoe. So we mentioned Defoe's the dead body that they found in 2053. But we mentioned at the beginning of the show that they found the same body in all those 4 years. That means Defoe is the same body in each of those times. How is that possible? Well, apparently this time travel machine, the Throat, creates 4 different versions of Defoe and drops each of those versions on Long Harvest Lane in all those different years. And who shoots Defoe?
Maplewood.
Inspector Maplewood. Because at first she didn't believe what they were telling her. She thought Mannix was this great, powerful person, and that Hassan and Defoe were just rebels, insurrectionists, or whatever. So she shoots him. Bullet goes through his eye, through every single version of him. So he ends up making it to these places dead, with one exception. He survives in 2053, right? But then he dies on the table, which is when Defoe ends up seeing his future self dead. So anyway, it's a loop, and the only person that knows it's a loop is Mannix. So how do you break the loop? How do you stop it, right? Again, we'll see the connection here in a second. Every single one of the inspectors plays a role into absolutely everything that happens. Obviously, Inspector Hillinghead, his daughter ends up marrying Mannix, and they end up killing him. Mannix ends up having one of the cops kill him because they arrested him because he confessed to killing that body, even though we know he didn't do it. And the reason that he confessed is because they were trying to tell him he needed to throw his lover under the bus, because he did eventually hook up with the photographer. He was in love with him, but he didn't want to do that to him, so he confessed that he killed the body. So anyway, he gets arrested. Mannix ended up having him killed. That's how Hillinghead was connected at first to that whole situation. Then Whiteman we end up finding out is the one who goes and shoots Mannix as an elderly man and also shoots his wife, the piano girl. Then we also have Inspector Hassan, who ends up leading Mannix to the point where he ends up detonating that bomb. At first, she's able to stop him, but because she tried to take him to see his mom, the one who gave him up, and she refuses to see him, he breaks down because, again, he's not loved, or he's been told he's not loved. So he ends up detonating the bomb because they've brainwashed him into believing that if he detonates the bomb, he will end up finally being loved. This is literally like the whole thing. Then we have Maplewood, who, of course, she kind of sets everything into motion herself by shooting Defoe, and that, begets the whole story. How do you break the cycle, right? Like, that's really what we ended up trying to get to at the end of it. You break the cycle at the very beginning. And
that's why he...
Yeah. So basically, you have Maplewood, who goes back to 19... Well, she goes back to all of them. She goes back to 1890, all of those, right? And when she's in 1890, she convinces Hillinghead of everything that's happened. She tells him how his daughter plays this role, and it's Mannix and all these things. Mind you, this whole entire time, the daughter has no idea. She ends up marrying Mannix. She has no idea that this man killed her father or had her father killed. And so she's, the second half of the bloodline. He needs her. Anyway, Maplewood convinces Hillinghead about all of this. And so the only way to stop Mannix is for him to find out that at the end of the day, he ends up dying alone, unloved, with full of regrets. Hillinghead plants the seed in his head by telling him what he's learned and making Mannix realize that he knows who he is, and convinces him in some ways that he's not loved. So we see the progression of the relationship that he has with the wife. In previous episodes, it looked like everything was great, and then eventually how he kind of brings her into the cult right after she's had their first baby. And then after Hillinghead has that conversation with him at the end, messes with his head, the relationship between Mannix and the wife is nothing like it was in the previous versions, and things deteriorate to the point where by the time we're in 1941, she's just desperate for things to be over. And Inspector Whiteman comes and he kills all of them. But Mannix has a change of heart right before he's about to die and records one final recording for Mannix 2023, telling him not to detonate the bomb, and has Whiteman hide that recording where it'll be found later on by Hassan, I believe. Yeah. So that's a whole thing where it all plays out, where Hassan eventually does find, the recording, plays it for Mannix, and he ends up not detonating the thing. We think everything has been resolved. The bomb is no longer going to go off. People are not going to be killed. And the cycle is supposedly broken. Or at least it's what we think.
Yeah. So the moral of the story, great overview. Moral of the story, homie Mannix wanted to be loved.
Yeah.
And in order to be loved, he needed to start from the beginning.
Yeah.
With the end in mind. So in 2023, it's like, nobody loves me. Wah, wah, wah. 2053 was like, I got it all, but let me change it all.
Right. Because they're trying to destroy me.
Yeah, because they're trying to destroy me. So if I control it from the beginning, then everything will go my way because I know what's going to happen.
Right.
But he was never loved to begin with. So, the cycle is broken.
It's very, detrimental, what can really, affect you if you don't have the right sort of environment to grow up in. And, obviously we know that, but, the way they kind of portrayed it and how it played out, it was crazy. It was really sad too, because it's I kind of felt bad for 2023 version of Mannix, even though I knew the other versions were evil. And it was just kind of man, that sucks. And all of this to just be loved. But it's like he has to keep doing this over and over to just like ensure that he continues to get like his happy ending, I guess. Like that just
Mhm.
seems so unfortunate. Like I don't know, it's like a miserable existence. I don't
Yeah.
know.
And
So
he just wanted everybody to feel, loved. So his utopian world needed to start from the beginning.
yeah. Yeah. That was quite a bit. Like it was definitely a whole entangled, crazy woven web that like by the time we get to the end of it, we're like, oh my gosh, I finally understand. I get it now. But yeah, it
Yeah.
was a lot. I really
Yeah.
liked it
But yeah, because it was something different. It's not something that we regularly see. Like, and
though.
it's all these different time periods with like the same detective, kind of the same storyline, but you kind of don't know where it starts, where it ends, like you said. But
Yeah.
the premise was sad. It's like, he just wanted to be loved. I know
Right.
I'm saying it so simply, but it was, you know, he did all these things, terrible things, and what he thought were great things, all to be loved.
Yeah. I think like it's a good message, I guess, for the power that a person can have for good or for bad, under certain circumstances. It's like if you are willing to like put people through pain just so that you no longer feel pain, like that's selfish and that's crazy, but like he was willing to do all that just to get to his just to get away from his pain, like he killed thousands of people with that bomb, and like it didn't matter because it was like worth it in the end. But you could see how in 2023, like the younger version of Maddox was very conflicted. He didn't want to hurt people. He didn't want to do any of that stuff. And, it just literally took one event, which was the rejection by his mother, to just set everything else in motion and go in the wrong direction. Some last tidbits though, I thought the fact that his daddy was Hassan's boss pissed me off. I was so upset.
Why?
Like, sir, you knew this whole time, sir. You you were playing along, and then I was
Yeah,
upset.
that's why it's so convoluted. It's like you were the dad all along. Like what?
Yeah, I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
I was mad. I was so mad. I was like, this whole time, and then you were telling her like, no, I'm taking you off the case. Da, 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 da. And
Hmm.
and then you were there when they were interrogating Mannix, and you were like, oh no, he's guilty. This was all an act. Oh, I was so mad at him. I was so mad. And then I felt so bad for Hillinghead because, he's gonna get killed no matter what. He didn't get to like live out his life with his man. That was sad. He was so in love.
I
He
mean, he
was
was
in
into
love.
with the times.
I know. He was born in the wrong time, which Mannix actually said that to him.
Yeah,
Um and then Inspector Whiteman, he loved that little girl.
he had a soft spot.
Killed. I know. And then he was killed. Like I know technically like he was wrong for a lot of his bad deeds, but I liked him. He was kind of cute. I felt bad for him.
But
He
he
was.
died in a gangster way, though.
He really did.
He was pissed when they killed that little girl. When the piano girl, we don't even know
Yeah.
her name. When piano girl killed the little Jewish girl,
Yeah.
he went knock if you buck on everyone. Like
Full
he
blown John Wick.
old Maddox. The other piano girl died playing the piano. The
He
irony
really
in
did.
that. She really
Mm-hmm.
did.
Yep.
Anybody that came in his way, he went to the bar and he was like, "What's up?" Basically, kill me through. Like he died in an epic way, and I can appreciate that.
Definitely. My least favorite was Inspector Maplewood.
She
I
was a
didn't like
goody two shoes, but it's understandable because if they gave her the ability to walk. The government gave her the ability to walk, so
True.
you can expect her loyalty to them.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. And
Way.
her neighbor, her nosy ass neighbor.
Oh, was in it too,
I
guys.
I was
Please
bad.
watch the show and let us know what you think. It's just a cluster. A good
No, but yeah, I agree. Like, watch it. It's a really great show. Super convoluted. You have to pay attention. This is not one of those shows that you can have in the background while you're playing Candy Crush or while you're playing whatever or swiping or scrolling. You have to pay attention. Like, for
yeah,
real, for real.
because I paid attention throughout all of it and I'm still confused. But Dee gave a great synopsis, so I think I kind of get it now. I get it again. Guys, if you watch the show, let us know what you think. But that concludes today's episode on our review of Bodies. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe, turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our videos. Also, please share our video. We're trying to grow our community so your friends could be our friends. We could all be friends. We also have social media, which Dee will tell you about.
We're on Instagram and TikTok at Hear Me Out DNE. So make sure you guys like, follow, share, comment. We enjoy interacting with you guys.
All right, guys. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Bye.